Hey guys, welcome back. I've got a video here, another one from Jago Hazard. This one is every abandoned station on the Piccadilly Line. As you guys know, this is right up my alley. Um, Lately, last several nights, I have been going to sleep watching, and it's awful. I'll have to actually end up turning it off so I don't go to sleep with it because I get interested. But just underground subway stations and old ones, some never came to fruition, even though they spent millions of dollars starting to build them and then they just stopped. Um, but I've been watching, at least last night, I watched a lot of New York ones and previously used like tunnels that went through the city that just fell into disrepair or they were dangerous. They didn't have enough people patrolling them, so they ended up closing them now. You know, 30 years later, they want to go back and reopen them. I just think they're interesting. I just do. But this one is, of course, the stations on the Piccadilly line. I will link this video in the description along with links over to Patreon and how you can support the channel here on YouTube. Just wrapped up season 1 of Friday Night Dinner over there and restarted Blackadder the Third this week. So go check out Patreon. Do it if you have not done so. You can join for free. Tons of stuff to watch for free, or you can be awesome and be a member and help out the channel and get access to like everything. But yeah, let's go ahead and do this thing.
Everyone loves a closed tube station. Millions of people use the London Underground, and the idea that there are secret bits of it that no one gets to see is a very compelling one.
That's
In fact, the
awesome.
London Transport Museum runs very popular tours of some of those abandoned bits. The Piccadilly Line has an awful lot of closed stations. The reason for this is because its builders were over-optimistic as to just how many they'd need when they were planning the line back at the beginning of the 20th century. In central London they built stations very close together, and often not in the most useful, convenient, or even visible locations. One station's catchment area might well overlap with that of the next one along the line. In the 1930s, the Piccadilly Line underwent a programme of extension and modernisation, and as part of that, its owners took the opportunity to divest themselves of some of their most unremunerative and, let's be honest, pointless stations. Now, just to clarify, I'm only covering stations that have completely closed. For instance, Hyde Park Corner has a disused building here, but the station is still very much in use. I'm also not including renamings or resightings. Well, my rule with resighting is, if the location was far enough from the original to warrant a name change, it gets covered. So, Osterley's in, Hillingdon's out. I'd do that smug but unimaginative social media thing of saying, sorry, I don't make the rules, but I actually do make the rules in this case. Also, I feel no sense of sorrow. Let's start in the north. Now, the northern end of the Piccadilly Line, beyond Finsbury Park, was actually only constructed in the 1930s, and as a result, there are no closed stations there. Apparently, closing Manor House was contemplated during the planning stages of the Victoria Line, but that's as close as it got. I should also give an honourable mention to this London Underground building at Collina Road, which seems likely to have been the planned site of a station called St Anne's Road. It never got built, or even got past the planning stages, it seems, but things were solid enough that they had some land here. But instead of a station, they built a ventilation shaft. From Finsbury Park to Hammersmith, the line opened in December 1906, and that's where most of the abandoned stations are located. The first station we come to is York Road. York Road was one stop north of King's Cross, on the edge of what was known as the Railway Lands. The area was very industrial.
I love these old buildings. I liked earlier it had showed one that looked like maybe it was being used for something else now. Oh, excuse me. Well, thought I was gonna sneeze, but they still left the lettering on. I like that. I'm glad they did. That's one of the tunnels I keep looking for videos of it, and I've only found really one. I found some pictures of one that was in New York that was attached to the Gimbals store. They were like right across the street from Macy's, and they kind of were back and forth for years and years. But Gimbals had a um, tunnel under the building that you could access from the lower levels, and then you could go through the subway, or you could take the tunnels through, like if the weather was bad. And I saw where a lot of the old Gimbals signage was kind of rubbing off, or actually, one person had paid like 300 and some dollars. I saw for one of the just gimbals and an arrow that had been part of the subway, which I think is cool, worth every penny. But I just think that you should keep the original history if you're able to.
Industrial and very poor, the residents were more likely to take the tram, the bus, or to walk into town. So the station was always poorly patronised. From 1908, some services skipped it altogether, and in 1932 it was closed down. The railway lands were the location of the goods depot serving King's Cross Station. Once that closed down, the area became somewhat notorious. It's recently been redeveloped, and as part of that redevelopment, it was proposed to reopen York Road at various points between 2006 and the present day. However, Transport for London have rejected this on the grounds that it would slow trains down on the busy Piccadilly Line.
Hmm.
Aldwych, or Strand, is quite possibly the best known abandoned tube station. Firstly, because it's located firmly within the heart of London's West End, along one of its busiest streets, Strand. Secondly, because it tends to get used a lot for filming. And thirdly, because it only closed a little over 30 years ago. The line to Aldwych branches off the main Piccadilly line at Holborn, and for most of its life it was worked as a shuttle service. There were several reasons why it wasn't popular. It was very close to Temple on the District and Circle lines. It wasn't far from Charing Cross and Trafalgar Square stations on the Northern and Bakerloo lines, respectively. It was well served by trams. And to be honest, it wasn't even that far from Holborn. There were several ideas to incorporate it into other schemes, to attach it to a Jubilee line extension, to extend the branch to Waterloo, and latterly even to turn it into part of an underground cycle route. But none of these came to pass. It closed in 1994 when the station required refurbishment, and London Transport decided it wasn't worth it. Next up, Down Street. This is another contender for most famous abandoned station. Its entrance is kind of hard to see, being on a side street away from the main road. It was opened slightly later than the rest of the line, on the 15th of March 1907. Down Street had the opposite problem to York Road. Around here, the residents were too rich to sully themselves with subterranean trains. It also had to compete with the nearby Hyde Park Corner and Green Park stations. The Piccadilly Line stations had initially opened with lifts to take passengers to platform level. Escalators are better at moving large numbers of people, so it was decided in the 1920s to replace the lifts at the busiest stations with this more efficient mode. However, because lifts are vertical and escalators are diagonal, that meant moving a lot of the entrances. At Green Park, then known as Dover Street, the entrance was moved to the west. This put it even closer to Down Street, and so Down Street was taken down in 1932. It saw a lot of use during the war as the headquarters of the
Ooh.
railway executive. It even temporarily housed the Prime Minister, Winston Churchill. though I should say that it was very temporary. Brompton Road was so notorious for it.
I have a question for you guys. I did come across a lot of call them urban explorers that go and they find ways and sneak into these places. I showed you guys one in a two-part video the other day. Well, not two parts, but I watched two different videos in it. It was kind of a spur of the moment, but would you guys want to watch some of those? I've tried to avoid anything having to do with the UK when I watch these abandoned tunnels, except for the one I watched with you guys the other day because I'd already seen it. Um, but I mean, I love watching those. Like I said, I watch these anyway in my free time. So let me know in the comments if you guys would want to watch some reacts to those. I mean, we can see what the inside of some of these abandoned stations look like today.
Its poor service that it gave its name to a play, Passing Brompton Road. It was between South Kensington and Knightsbridge. South Kensington is a busy station with a lot to see. Knightsbridge is a busy station with a lot to see. Brompton Road, well, not so much. So passengers tended to avoid it. I get the impression that the underground group wanted to close it long before they actually did. Trains would often skip it, much to the frustration of the passengers that did use it, and no doubt that made it even less popular. In 1926 it was closed due to the general strike and it wasn't reopened for 5 months.
These
As
windows are
with Down
cool.
Street, it was the rebuilding of a neighbouring station that prompted its final end. In this case, the rebuilt station was Knightsbridge. That being said, it lasted 2 years longer than Down Street or York Road, finally closing its gates in 1934. Now all trains are passing Brompton Road. And now I think we should head out into the suburbs. Technically, Park Royal and Twyford Abbey was never a Piccadilly Line station. It was built on the Ealing and South Harrow Railway, which to all intents and purposes was a branch of the District Railway. But because there were so many branches of the District Railway, in the 1920s the Underground Group decided to hand 2 of the branches over to the Piccadilly Line. This was one of them, and is now the Piccadilly Line route to Uxbridge. When Park Royal and Twyford Abbey opened in 1903, this area was basically the countryside. The only thing of note in the area was the Royal Agricultural Showground, and that was why this station even existed. The reason you can't see anything today is because it was very basic. Wooden platforms, corrugated iron shelters. The area did see development, but further to the west. Therefore it was decided to close Park Royal and Twyford Abbey and replace it with Park Royal. That opened in 1931. And Park Royal and Twyford Abbey was closed at the same time. Nothing remains. The other branch that got handed over to the Piccadilly Line was the branch to Hounslow Barracks, better known today as Hounslow West.
I love these
And that brings us to our
double-deckers.
next station, Osterley and Spring Grove. This opened in 1883, hoping to take advantage of traffic to, well, Osterley Park and Spring Grove. Spring Grove was a housing development, but not a very successful one. As the suburbs developed, more and more passengers used the station. It became too successful for its own good, in fact. It was clear that it would need to be rebuilt. London Underground decided that rather than rebuild, they'd close it down altogether and build a new one on the Great West Road. The new Osterley station opened in 1934, bringing the end of Osterley and Spring Grove. That's all the abandoned stations on the Piccadilly Line, or on track that became the Piccadilly Line. I will make some more honourable mentions, though. There were 3 other tube stations that narrowly escaped closure in the Piccadilly Purge. One was Gloucester Road, which saw more patronage from the District Line than the Piccadilly. Another was Covent Garden, which was seen as overlapping with Leicester Square and was not, as it is now, located in a major tourist district. And the third was Gillespie Road, which since 1932 has been called Arsenal. That was very busy on match days, but at other times was embarrassingly quiet. All three of these stations have since seen enough of an increase in passenger numbers to justify keeping them. I might also mention Hounslow Town. This was never part of the Piccadilly Line and was never even on a section of line that became the Piccadilly. It was located on a little stub off what's now the Piccadilly Line, just east of Hounslow East. This was built in 1883 for the District Railway, with the aim of extending the line to meet the London and South Western Railway at Twickenham, on the branch to Kingston. The London and South Western Railway had other ideas, and the scheme never went ahead. Rather than go to Twickenham, the district decided to build a line to the west, leaving Hounslow Town as a stubby little branch. As a result, it became a little bit pointless and was closed in 1909. So not only did it never see Piccadilly trains, but its existence barely overlapped with that of the Piccadilly line. The site of the station is now Hounslow Bus Station. And that's all of them. All of the closed stations on the Piccadilly line, and more besides. It's enough to make a fellow feel a little blue. Well, I do hope you enjoyed this over-catered tale from the tube. If you did, please do leave a like.
Yeah, that was a great video. I enjoy all of Jago Hazard's videos, and his humor is great too. Yeah, let me know in the comments if we should watch some people checking these out for us. I would love to do it. I've tried to go around to some of these more abandoned places that are even, close by to me, and I don't know, it's scary to do just as a girl. You know. But I would love to. I would love to do it if I had a group of dudes to go with me. I would love to do it. But yeah, really great video. Super interesting. I don't know why I find it so interesting. I just do. Um, but yeah, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, share. Go check out Jago if you haven't already. I know a ton of you have. And yeah, have an awesome day, guys. Thanks for watching with me.